Chapter 39. The Sixth Circle of the Underworld. The Cosmic Egg. For a moment I saw myself as a wolf. A moment later, I was a dove. After that I appeared as a serpent with many hoods called a naga. Then I was a golden lion of love. Moment by moment, it all seemed to change, for no man or woman ever steps in the same river twice. Everything was changing, and this was bringing my soul to new heights. Many Nagas lived in the sixth circle of the underworld, and there was no reason to fear or to fight. But rather, as divine serpents, we were aware of the true nature of reality, and so we called this life. This level was the soul, or feet of the universe, and to humans, this place would seem mighty yet cruel, for no living animal could survive easily down here. Yet this space was quite welcoming to the spiritual soul. Burrowing through the ground, I stumbled upon an assembly of sacred Nagas. They had come to gather in community, as if they had been waiting for one of us. As they circled a hidden altar, it seemed that this was a cathedral, yet there were no words to be said. That's when I looked to the very center. There I saw the cosmic egg. This egg was lapis. It was the Philosopher's Stone. And in order to reach this place, you mustn't be attached to the kingdom of the body, the kingdom of the mind, or even the kingdom of the spiritual throne. Now, if you were to ask, how should one live? I would say that here we are, and that this is the only dance there is. All these Nagas are masters, and they never got lost in all the fantastic things that magical beings can do. They were supreme and invisible, and as they weren't obsessed with control and power, their body, mind, and spirit was always in tune. Yet they do use powers that exist on various planes, between down here and above where humans live. But they weren't attached to all these magical things that can be done with our spirit. They were aware that it's possible to read minds, since this is just how they lived. They were aware you can move via astral travel, but they didn't abuse it. Humans wanted to hold all sorts of special and magical powers, even showing off their abilities. But Nagas were humble, and so they mastered non-attachment to maintain their responsibilities. And when the humans got out of control, a Naga king or queen would let them know. These divine snakes would simply come near the surface of Earth and destroy the crops that had come to grow. Or the divine serpents would roll over, and there an earthquake would appear. All it took was a mere thought from a Naga, and it could let a pandemic loose, which might set the entire world into fear. This was a way to guide mankind to obey these spiritual powers, so that we didn't lose sight. Often in the material world, we are selfish and grasp for control, but the Nagas realized the true nature of reality and saw the value of all life. Humans often get stuck in separateness, thinking we are better than all the other animals, and so the Nagas cause disasters to remind the world it is not people who are in total control, since they too are simple mammals. Of course, great powers are available to man and woman, but so often, human beings discover these powers and begin to manifest things based upon their ego. Even if they want to help mankind with their new powers, it seems to disrupt the balance, and so comes the onset of new forms of evil. There are great beings who have powers without being controlled by the ego, and so they become a spiritual vehicle. In essence, they allow a Naga to use them, and this could be thought of as the journey of a humble hero. To give up who you are for whatever the world decides for you is a state of surrender, and this is what the Nagas look for us to do. To submit to the earth, to work on behalf of the land. This is what the Garden of Eden looked like. It is the destiny of the human woman and man. When we live in union, then the Nagas will not cause havoc. Rather, they will celebrate and grace us with gifts. But still humanity is stuck in a vicious cycle, and so the Nagas come to the surface and break it. If you were given powers, then what would you do? The real power is to hold great magic and ability, and let the magical aspects of the universe work through you. This doesn't mean we cannot seek things, or that we must be willing to give up everything, including the shirt from our back, but rather we can say, use my body, mind, and spirit for the benefit of all beings, for we are servants of God. We are that which is not attached. Look at any animal. They do not hoard anything, yet they have enough. They live without houses for shelter, and they live with complete trust. Still animals suffer, and still they die. But animals embody this true nature of reality because they live in accordance with the ways of nature to surrender and comply. Humans, on the other hand, we seem to create and destroy. We have killed each other and hoard so much. We push away what we determine is unlikable, and we are attached to the things we enjoy. Yet in 100 or so years, none of us will be alive. And what will happen to our spiritual soul? We will be gone from our homes, our jobs, our families, and brought back to remember that we are always walking each other home after we die. The house you built so perfectly will be gone within a few hundred years, and the car you saved up all your life for will not survive, and even the beauty you tried to preserve will eventually dissolve through thin air. The Nagas know this, and so they live in the moment. They have realized that every life is like a wave, and upon its death, it crashes to be reunited with the entire ocean. That's when it hit me, as I too would be called back. Just as one wave falls, the tide will rise to the other shore, where it will form again and collapse. So why would I go back? At the level I function at, I'm always going back, because I'm going back. I wouldn't say I have a profound model of why I'm going back. I'm going back because my karmic attachments to the whole world aren't done yet. I also see that my role, my thing, in the water flowing downstream is that I am a Western human, and that all of these experiences I have had in the human world are a part of my preparation so that I can share my experiences with others. This is what I have to teach, to show, to my fellow sisters and brothers, and I see part of my life's role is that of a Gnostic intermediary, that is, to bring metaphors from one system into another. That seems to be my thing. It's done without attachment, and that I'm doing it because I'm doing it, because I'm doing it, because I'm doing it. That is, I do this, and I do this, and I do it. And there are recordings being made, recordings I share, and maybe many people will hear this, or maybe not. I've done what Spirit has for me to do. Now I'm free to go this next round inward. I go here, then there. Maybe I sit down to meditate, or to practice yoga, or to join in the community. But I go along the way and pick up more metaphors, allegories, and stories, which is part of the great teaching. I don't have a model. All I can say is that I'm trying to find teachings, or guidance, and become a sort of guardian who collects more experience. What I mean by this is I've discovered I'm in the role of a server. My ego doesn't always want to hear this, but that's why I'm working to put my dragon in the cage, so I can control the wicked aggression and rage. This helps me understand that I'm now living out, as I understand it in the most profound sense, what it means to say, not mine, but thy will. I'm not in control of this trip, or these words, or this writing, or this story. And so when I get back, God might say, "You finished your work." Then God may touch me, and I could turn into a butterfly. I don't know. Or maybe I go back, and God kicks me and says, "I don't recognize you. Go back to America, because you've got more work to do." I can't write the script, because I let go. I don't know. And that can be very difficult for us in the world. We usually have a model of what we're going to do with our lives, and we're collecting this for that, and we're living in this time. But right here, I'm not living in time that way. And so, there are 7 focal points in this journey, and as I reflect on the transition from the 3rd to the 4th place, I see that 4th place, the fire, as the first transcendent state, as this is the entry into the heart. At the first point, we are at our root, where we are concerned with our individual safety, security, and survival. This is the entrance into that cavern. We call this our ego, or primal nature. Then on the second place, we have a sacred center, which focuses on feelings, desires, sexual needs, and even lust. On the third is our power, our will, or the ways in which we seek to control and direct our life. The fourth aspect is the entry into the heart, and all the while, the energy is trying to rise up through our root. But if it's blocked, then it stops. That's why so much of our world is living in survival mode, because we exist in a state of fear and ignorance. Now, the more we try to control things, the more the Naga, or divine serpents of the underworld, are trying to dismantle those blockages. And the more we resist, the more nature persists. When we are open and release our blockages, nature begins to flow with us, and we go with it. This transcendent state of the heart is the first one into the state of compassion, that is, where one experiences the shift over our separateness. So before this, you see that you and I are human beings, and see us for our clothes, our skin, our attitudes, our ages, our bodies, and personalities. But when we reach this heart center, we experience a unitive nature with one another. We recognize our soul, or the heartbeat of life. That is another level of consciousness, where the unitive nature is real, rather than intellectually known. It's a real plane, and that compassion that's happening to you is also happening to me, because that place in you is the place in me. So when you see Jesus' burning heart, this is what he was feeling: the total expansive love for all beings, regardless of class, race, gender, or even form. It was loving awareness. The heart opening is when you see that we're two different forms of manifestations of God's one consciousness. That's what we call the fourth chakra. The fifth chakra is when you turn back inward, and rather than seeing the outward manifestations, you start to go deeper within, as we could call it, and become preoccupied with higher planes of light, or energy, or form of it all, which are more and more subtle states of differences and similarities. It's as if we come into the place where we're all energy, or where we are cellular formations. It's a sort of different planes of perceptual organization of the universe. Often we want the energy to go higher, as if we're more enlightened, but we can become spacey or unbalanced when we're not centered in the heart. For I myself have been seated in a business meeting, but my energy could have been in Pluto, wondering about the stars. This formless energy can pull us away from the moment, leaving us out of sync with the world around us. But in this heart space, we are here and now. The sixth chakra is very comparable to what's called the causal plane, which is the place where one has broken sufficient attachments to one perspective, so that you can stand back sufficiently far to gain what could be called cosmic perspective, to see the most basic laws of the universe and its operation happening everywhere in our universe. It's what Plato's pure ideas are primarily about. This is the sixth chakra. It's what we call wisdom. It's the wisdom of the ages. It could also be called the Godhead in a religious formulation of the first thought forms, the thought of which the rest is a manifestation. And this sixth place we would be in is the realm of pure ideas. That is, if you are in the sixth chakra, you have in a sense left the gross body. You are no longer identified with this body, nor are you identified with your personality, which is the more subtle plane. You are only identified with the ideas. All the rest is but manifestation, coming outward in planes of material or grossness. The seventh chakra, the top chakra, is the chakra where you merge back into the oceanic, into the one, or totality. If you would look, for example, at the cyclical process of the ocean mist rising off the ocean, forming clouds. Clouds then have raindrops, and raindrops fall into the ocean, where the ocean is made of rain. But it's the ocean, and this ocean is a sense of oneness. Each raindrop does not retain its individuality as a raindrop any longer, and you can see this as a process. The seventh chakra is the ocean. It's where it goes back to the one. It's behind all laws and ideas. Now, when one is climbing this ladder of energy, there's a new way in which you can receive energy or transmute energy into the universe. You can work with different kinds of energy to become localized at each chakra. You could eat different foods. You can work with light, with love, or with anything in different ways. Also, depending on where your energy is at, you will see the world in different ways. For instance, if you are in your root, you may see someone approaching you as a threat. Or if you're in the sacred energy, you might see them as a mate. Or if you're in your solar plexus, the place of power and will, you might see them as a client or a business prospect. If your energy is in your heart, you will see them as a fellow soul, who is a living, breathing aspect of all souls. Depending on where we funnel this energy, we form habits or responses. A great reflection is how a person could be totally upset or aggressive one day, and the next day they could be loving. This is a sign their energy has moved, and often, when someone is aggressive, we can get pulled right into the same energy state as them. But real power is being able to stand in that heat and maybe even pull them out of their rut. This is called loving kindness and compassion. This ability to move others out of their energy blockages is rarely in our control. But as Ram Dass has said, if a person were drowning in suffering and needed help, all I can do for another person is to be an environment in which, if they wanted to come up for air, they could. An interesting observation with these energy levels is that at each level, we can get stuck in that level. What we realize as human beings is that our energy is very unevenly distributed in our energy centers across these planes or chakras, since this energy is not visible to the human eye. The key then would be to move through the energy centers and to balance the energy accordingly throughout our bodies. For instance, someone who has a lot of sexual energy is likely to be very attached to the second chakra, where someone who is attached to power would be very attached to the third chakra. Now comes the process of converting Bindu to Ojas, which is to transmute energy or move it higher through the chakras or energy centers. The higher we move our energy, the more we have a better understanding of this all. People who have yet to feel an energy shift internally cannot quite comprehend this, since they might be rooted in patterns of behavior, and this means they could be living in the first chakra. Our duty as human beings is to take energy from the lower centers and move it to the higher center. This is what Christ did. This becomes our work. What we learn through various techniques is that we can center and balance our energy on the fourth chakra, the heart. Then something happens to the lower chakras. So if we are in the heart, then when a beautiful woman or man comes across our path, we don't feel lust or desire, but rather, we see this as a fellow soul of God's creation. In the same way, I believe this is how the priesthood, sages, scholars, and teachers are intending to live. Yet the method for remaining in this heart energy is not quite taught in many Christian philosophies. It's more of a mandate. This is why Buddhism and Hinduism and other Eastern religions are quite important, because their spiritual religions are grounded in methods and practices for balancing the energy within the body and mind, whereas Christian religions might say, this is what we believe, and this is what you must do. Other religions have the same moral code, but these Eastern religions are teaching us and showing us methods to focus the energy into the heart, rather than telling us to do it without showing us how. So when the Bible says, "Thou shalt not feel lust," it's really speaking about, thou shalt not get stuck in the second chakra. This whole process of living and balancing our energy is a dance of life. It's the only dance there is. You can live life as if there's a big weight on you, or you can do it as if it's part of the dance. It's totally up to you. Now, I would say that my own state, and most of us in the West, are not always evenly balanced. Our energy is spread or scattered over many states, and this could be due to the TV we watch, the websites we look at, or who we're around. There are many ways to work with energy, and I have found that through psychedelics such as psilocybin or magical mushrooms and LSD, we can immediately enter into the 6th and 7th state of chakras. Our energy passes through the centers that were once blocked, and this can be a very foreign experience, but it is an entry into the kingdom of spirit while we are residing within our bodies. Many experience a deep and profound connection to God, but of course this state isn't permanent, and so we only spend a few hours experiencing that higher state of being. The work then becomes an integration process to take what we've learned through the experience and to implement lessons into our lives so that we don't get stuck in our lower nature during normal life. These higher states would be called Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is a total oneness with God and Spirit. In order to fulfill our life's journey, we should begin to understand what the role of the Bodhisattva in Buddhism is. That is to say, even if we get to the 7th plane, we can't get stuck there. If we're attached to this godly space, we would negate the other planes, such as the heart. If we were attached to the supreme state of consciousness, we are attached to the void. The final place we come to is where we complete the cycle of our life, and this is when we consciously live at every plane, or all energy centers, because every plane provides truth, and so our lives are that of a bodhisattva, which means living in the world, and at the same time, we are not attached to the world or its confusion. This is the supreme awareness of reality, when we are living in union with our true nature. So finally, our job is not just to keep moving energy up, but to move energy until we are free of our attachments to certain states, including the highest one, so that we are all of them, all the time. This then means we can relate with everyone, at all energy levels, all the time. This means we are an optimum being. That's what the cosmic egg is about, whispered the King Naga at the forefront of this gathering. Yes, a philosopher's stone. Some call it lapis.
Time to cut it,
said the Naga Queen. How will you do that?
Not I, but us. We've got the flaming sword. Now come forth and step into the center,
said the Naga Queen. They saw me as one of them, and this had become an incredible transformation. What I had gone through up till now felt like a terrible human curse, but it was in fact a divine spiritual blessing. Life is not happening to us, but rather, it is happening for the benefit of our soul. And only after we depart from our human bodies can we remember how we're all pieces of one united whole. Now I did have a sword, and so I stepped forth to the central altar. By some miracle, they had found me to be the exalted. What is the purpose of the cosmic egg?
It is completion, harmony, the infinite within the finite. The cosmic egg is the end of the journey, and it represents the unfolding of cosmic consciousness. This state emerges after we have tread the path for quite some time, and through self-effort and grace, we experience self-realization. A sense of contentment and oneness spontaneously arises within us, and the veils of our self-limiting beliefs are lifted. When the essence of the cosmic egg has not been activated, we may feel as if we will never get there, or that we travel alone, or that we're disconnected from others. Even if our encounter with this cosmic egg is brief, appearing as a momentary glimmer or flash of interconnectedness, its potent energy stays with us. The cosmic egg is a remedy for the fragmentation of modern life. It's through the power of this cosmic egg that we are reminded of the cosmic contract written at the beginning. We hold on to life, and life holds on to us. The journey is complete, but it does not end,
said the Naga Queen. And so I stared at the egg, as it held an iridescent glow of all colors. A vision of a snake began to stretch around it. And what is the essence of this egg?
The subtle essence of the cosmic egg resides in the crown chakra at the top of the head.
said the Naga king. The cosmic egg was lapis, the philosopher's stone, the magnum opus, and the great work. It is the clarified body with the gift of immortality, where ashes rise above the four elements into the purest center as the fifth being of the whole nature. As I held the flaming sword up, I pressed it gently but firmly against the cosmic egg when I heard its voice speak.
The egg of nature, they call me, known to all the philosophers. Some call me Quicksilver, as I am Mercury. Fine I am, an old dragon, an old man, an old woman. I am everywhere, near and far. I fly away, unless one binds me with measure. I have much form, color, and shape, and I carry in me the force of all men, women, and creatures ever born.
As the egg was cut open, I noticed that the mercury was first black while it turned cold, moist, and now white in its appearance, but deep within it was red, which was hot and dry. It was the egg of heaven, the preserver of life.
Now since you've opened the cosmic egg, it comes with a special gift. Its powers will forever manifest through you, and in addition to that, you will be granted one last wish,
said the Naga queen. Now the Mercurial center spread out into me, and it gave birth to a new form. Alas, a metamorphosis, and like a butterfly leaving the cocoon, I realized that this alchemical path arrived so that the body, mind, and spirit could transform. To anyone looking from the outside in, it might appear as if I had nothing left, but this alchemical process did not consume everything. It transformed an ancient curse into a great blessing.